Students, in today's class, let's learn about the period between 1000 and 1350 AD, which is an important period in history. We have learned in the last lesson how new ruling families emerged all over India who tried to establish small kingdoms over the agricultural villages. They enabled the herders following to settle down as agriculturists in the agricultural villages. There were many battles between these ambitious kings and warriors which led to the establishment of the Kakatiya kingdom in Warangal. Students, this was also the time during the first books were written in Telugu.
The Srimad Andhra Mahabharatam, composed by Kavitrayamu, which includes three poets, Nananya, Tikanna and Yerapragada, is the first poetic work in Telugu which was written between 100 and 1200 AD.
The inscriptions and the literary works point out that the lineage of Kakatiyas traces to Durjaya. Most of the inscriptions are in Telugu, which are called as Andhra Rajas. Telugu was the favored language in the court of the Kakatiyas. The Kakatiyas also sought to unite the three regions, the coastal, the Telangana and the Rayalaseema regions where Telugu was being spoken. This is how the Kakatiyas tried to spread a Telugu regional consciousness for which they are remembered even today. Now, let us see how the Kakatiyas established their kingdom after the fall of Western Chalukyas. The early Kakatiyas started off as warriors and Samantas of the Rakshakutas and Chalukyas who were ruling in Karnataka. The early members of the Kakatiyas held posts of village heads called Ratadi.
The military skills helped them in becoming chiefs and Samantas, etc., and eventually they gained control of Hanmakonda in Telangana. This is how the Kakatiyas emerged as independent rulers after the fall of Western Chalukyas. The important rulers in the Kakatiya kingdom were Prola II, Rudradeva, Ganapati Deva, Rudramadevi and Prataparudra.
Now, let us learn more about Oragalu or the current day Warangal.
It was during the rule of Rudradeva between 1158 and 1195 AD that the capital of the Kakatiyas was shifted from Hanmakonda to Orugalu. The city of Warangal was laid out with a plan that could accommodate people in case of an increase in population and also address the needs of the capital. A fort, a tank and the 1,000-pillared temple were built by Rudradeva in Hanmakonda. One can see an outer fort wall with 4 gates in the map. This wall helped in protecting the agricultural lands and the several water tanks. This area also had the huts of artisans like basket weavers and so on. After crossing the outer fort wall is the center, which has a moat, which is a ditch filled with water and a mud fort wall. A little further inside is another moat and a fort wall made of stone, which encompassed the buildings and palaces in Orugalu.
Isn't it interesting, students? Now, let us know a little more about the city. The stone wall had 4 gates in the 4 directions, namely east, west, south and north, from which a main road went to the center of the city, which has a temple of Swambhu Shiva. The temple also had 4 gates in the 4 directions. The city was divided into vadas or several quarters. The people of each profession inhabited their own distinct vadas. The Kakatiyas eventually became powerful and they were able to persuade various chiefs to accept them as their kings. The Samantas were protected by the Kakatiyas from other warriors and chiefs. The Samantas were also taken along by the Kakatiyas when they went on conquests. Although the Samanta chiefs tried to become independent, they were subdued by the armies sent by Kakatiyas. Students, all of you must have heard of Rudramma Devi, isn't it?
Rudrama Devi, who belonged to the Kakatiya family, ruled from Orugallu between 1262 AD and 1289 AD for almost 27 years. She was one of the very few women rulers in our country. Razia Sultana was a woman ruler in Delhi who was killed by her nobles as they did not like to be ruled by a woman. Marco Polo, the Italian traveller, visited the kingdom of Rudrama Devi. According to him, Rudrama Devi was fearless, dressed like a man, and rode horses with so much ease. Rudrama Devi called herself as Rudra Deva Maharaja, according to her inscriptions.
Rudrama Devi, like Razia Sultana, faced the opposition of so many prominent chiefs under her father. But she succeeded in putting them down. Rudrama and her grandson Prataprudra revolted many times against the opposition of the chiefs. The skilled warriors who were not from any royal or powerful families and who were very loyal to the king and the queen were encouraged and were given high positions and the title of Nayaka by Rudrama Devi and Prataparudra. The Nayakas were dependent on the king or the queen and hence were loyal to them. The Nayakas were probably used for subduing the rebellious chiefs also.
The Nayakas were given several villages called Nayankara to collect the taxes. The Nayakas could be transferred to other Nayankara according to the will of the king. The Nayakas were responsible for maintaining a stipulated army from the incomes of the Nayankara for the service of the king.
This is what is called Nayankara system. The Kakatiyas encouraged agriculture to a great extent. Large tracts of land were brought under cultivation by building tanks and digging wells in the kingdom.
The rich sections of the society, which included the merchants and artisans, along with the royal family and the feudal families, helped in building the tanks for the expansion of agriculture. This facilitated for the extension of cultivation in the difficult terrains of Telangana and Rayalaseema. The promotion of agriculture helped in deriving income by means of taxes and from the agricultural produce.
In addition to encouraging agriculture, the Kakatiyas also patronized the temples through donations. Mupammabad and Melaimma, the women members of the royal family, donated lands for the construction of temples. The women from other rich sections in the kingdom donated lands, cash, cattle, tanks, jewelries, etc. to the temples and Brahmins. A large part of the income was earned by the warriors, chiefs and kings by levying taxes on the traders who engaged in overseas trade on the ports.
This inscription makes it clear on the taxes collected by Ganapati Deva on the various items from the traders.
Around 1190 AD, a new kingdom called Sultans was established in Delhi. The kings came from Turkestan and had a powerful army.
the sultans succeeded in defeating most of the kings in the north and in the Deccan with their powerful army. Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq defeated Prataparudra in 1323 AD, which was the end of the Kakatiya dynasty.
A few years later, two new kingdoms, the Brahmani and the Vijayanagara kingdoms, came into being in Karnataka. Students, we will study about them in our next class. Well students, that was all for today. I hope you will keep in mind whatever has been taught to you in the class. See you in the next class.